Hello, neighbors. We have officially made it to part 4, the grand finale of our 4-part Q&A series for Mary Alice Monroe's The Summer Girls, filmed in celebration of the Sound of May Reading Challenge. For the last time, we are anchoring our literary deep dive to the ultimate sunshine pop throwback, Summer Girls by LFO. Today, we are closing out the official Simon & Schuster reading group guide by tackling some massive themes: environmental consequences, accountability, unresolved trauma, and where this trilogy is heading next. Our anchor lyric for the finale is "Stay all summer, then we'll go back home," because the season at Seabreeze is officially winding down and the Summer Girls have to figure out if their growth is going to stick when they return to reality. Let's dive straight into discussion question number 8. Our first question for today gets into a major plot point. Blake has to explain to Carson why befriending wild dolphins is dangerous. Do you believe that Blake's anger with Carson over Delphine's life-threatening injuries is justified? Who do you think is most to blame? Let's not mince words here. Yes, Blake's anger is justified. Carson acted impulsively, she acted knowingly, and she acted against explicit professional warnings. There are signs prohibiting excessive interaction with dolphins. There are fines for violating those rules. Earlier in the book, when she brought up interacting with dolphins, Blake did exactly what any responsible marine biologist would do. He immediately explained to her why approaching or befriending dolphins is so incredibly dangerous for both humans and the animals themselves. There was no failure of communication on, Blake's part. The boundaries were clear. The ecological risks were clear. And Carson actively chose to ignore them. The truth is, Carson's behavior isn't driven by ignorance. It's driven by her own emotional selfishness. Carson treats Delphine as a symbolic stand-in for her own need for connection, healing, and escape. She projects her internal world onto a wild animal, and that emotional projection completely overrides her judgment. Did Carson connect with the dolphin? Yes. But emotional motivation does not absolve you of responsibility. Instead of befriending and over-interacting with Delphine, if Carson was really worried about the dolphin's welfare, she could have reported the dolphin's initial shark injury to wildlife authorities and perhaps gotten Delphine some professional help. Delphine ends up severely injured because Carson continued to make reckless boundary crossing choices after she was explicitly told not to. Blake's rage is an expected response from somebody who actually understands the real world consequences of human interference with wildlife. And honestly, the way the reading guide frames this question by asking who do you think is most to blame seems a little shady. That language tries to imply that there's a shared blame situation happening here, which multiple people did things wrong, but I really feel it's just a narrative softening. It's like a textual coping mechanism because the novel desperately wants Carson to remain a sympathetic protagonist, and so it emphasizes her emotional wounds and frames her bond with Delphine as this, magical cosmic connection. But if we strip away the romanticized fluff and look at the actions, the person most at fault is Carson, period. That leads directly into question 9. Forgiveness is a major theme. Carson has major confrontations with Blake over Delphine, Brian over her theft, and Dora over what Dora reveals about Carson's mother's death. How do all these scenes lead to Carson's growth as a character? While those scenes are uncomfortable to read, they act as, how would I call it? They act as a necessary emotional crucible for Carson. Each specific confrontation forces her to look directly at a different unhealed wound that she's been running away from. Her confrontation with Blake forces her to finally learn responsibility and face the real world wreckage caused by her impulsivity. Her confrontation with Brian forces her to take actual accountability for her actions instead of just hiding behind her charm. And her intense moment with Dora forces her to confront the unvarnished truth about her mother's death, which kind of shatters the illusion she's built up to survive. Together, these interactions strip away her ability to run, which is her fallback strategy. They stop the endless cycle of escape and push her out of her destructive patterns and push her directly towards sobriety, self-forgiveness, and actual emotional maturity. Carson couldn't heal until she was forced to stand her ground and really just face the music. Question 11 goes deeper into her psychology. Throughout the novel, Carson is fearful of attachments to a place, a job, and especially to a man. Why do you think she suffers from an inability to commit? What role does Delphine play in helping her connect again? And what is her challenge at the end? Carson's profound fear of attachment comes from a very logical place when you look at her childhood. Her father's chronic alcoholism and complete lack of responsibility left her deeply neglected, and her mother's untimely death left behind a mountain of unresolved trauma. Because of that, Carson subconsciously associates roots and commitment with abandonment and pain. To her, staying still equals getting hurt, so she tries to stay fluid. She stays a free spirit because if you never attach to anything, nothing can break you when it leaves. This is exactly where her boundary crossing bond with Delphine serves a narrative purpose. Delphine forces Carson to reconnect with her dormant empathy. For the first time in a long time, Carson feels entirely responsible for the survival of another living being. That shared crisis with the dolphin becomes an emotional bridge she needs to build back trust with Blake and ultimately rebuild trust with her sisters. By the time we reach the final pages, Carson's ultimate challenge isn't about saving a dolphin. It's about choosing stability over escape. Her challenge is to finally drop her anchor on Sullivan's Island and commit to a real life. And finally, question 12 looks down the road. This is the first book in a trilogy. Predict what the next two books have in store for Dora, Harper, Carson, Blake, and Delphine. Based on the narrative architecture Monroe sets up in book 1, here are my official predictions for where the rest of the Lowcountry Summer trilogy is going. For Dora, since she finally broke her silence about Nate's autism, her arc is going to be about completely rebuilding her identity outside of her failed marriage, navigating the realities of single motherhood with a real support system, and I'm hoping for a fresh new romance for her.